Our next speaker is Mike Subelsky. Mike is a Baltimore-based entrepreneur and technologist, a big believer in Baltimore's innovation community of artists, technologists, thinkers, and strivers of all type. And that belief has led him to start a lot of incredible activities that are making a difference in our city. Would you please welcome Mike Subelsky. Mike?
Thank you. Wow, thank you very much. It's really awesome here to be tonight. When I agreed to do this, following Tom Loveland was not part of the deal. It's big shoes to fill. I want to see what I can do. This picture was taken at Startup Weekend, Baltimore, a couple weeks ago. This is an event that Mel Brennan organized along with a lot of other people who are here today. Teams of people came together to create new companies, new products that they demonstrated on Sunday night. Very exciting event, had a lot of buzz. I want to see this happening on a daily basis, people forming new companies and making new products on a much greater scale than it's happening in Baltimore today. And that's what my talk is all about. The future of Baltimore is putting people back to work, making things and inventing things. But who's really talking about that? Most of the public conversation, as far as I can tell, is projects like adding a zip line to the Inner Harbor, or the Grand Prix, or building the ICC. There are these big, often tourism-directed projects that involve a lot of energy and money and time that are one-offs. They're making a huge bet, and you're playing a zero-sum game with other states. There's only so many tourism dollars. There's only so many people you can fleece with gambling, etc. I'm saying, let's. I have 1650 left, folks. Okay, but thank you. I'm saying let's shave off just a sliver of the money and the attention that's going to this stuff, and let's make 1,000 small bets. I'm going to present to you 10 or so small bets. Whether you like my ideas or not, it's unimportant. Each of us could come up with 10 of their own pet projects. I'm guaranteeing you that would have a much more transformative effect on the economy. So, the summer of code. Let's give stipends to Baltimore area, Maryland area students, high school, undergraduate, graduate. Let's give them a $5,000 stipend to cover their living expenses for one summer, based on the Google Summer of Code and Ruby Summer of Code ideas. All they have to do is work on open source software or do something with a civic purpose, like work with Baltimore's open transparency data and create new tools for policy leaders and journalism people and the like. Let's have entrepreneur office hours. I have news for you. I talk to a lot of new entrepreneurs that want me to work with them, want help finding technologists to work on their company. The main thing that's stopping people from starting companies in this area is not a lack of money. It's really just a lack of know-how, a lack of connections. So why don't we just as a community decide that, like, the first Monday of every month, every Monday from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Emerging Technology Center or somewhere else in the city, you can meet with someone who's experienced in one of these areas. That way, you're never more than 1 month away from being able to make a connection with somebody who can help you get your idea off the ground. More importantly, they could probably steer you in a better direction, maybe help you not start that bad idea and get going on a new idea. But here's the question. If you volunteered right now, all right, I'll be there on the third Monday of November. Who's going to send you an email at the beginning of November reminding you that back here at TEDx you volunteered to do that? Well, some Baltimore organization needs to sponsor a staff person called the Innovation Community Manager to provide staff support and logistics to events and programs like TEDxBaltimore and like the one I just described. I don't know why the venue changed, but I can well imagine, because I've organized a bunch of things like this, and I know all the headaches that you have when you're dealing with venues. It's just part of the territory. There's just some logistical friction there. What if there was somebody whose whole job was to negotiate deals with venues, to hold bank accounts, to go out and get media sponsorships, to go get corporate sponsorships? Then somebody like Mel Brennan could just focus on the content and finding the best, awesomest speakers and putting on the awesomest event possible. All right. I want to say more. I got to keep going. All right. Secret Science Club. This is something in New York that I want to import to Baltimore. Let's get public intellectuals, people who are subject matter experts, somebody like Will Knoll at the Walters. Let's put them on stage and treat them like rock stars. Talk about technically complex things and make them really exciting and accessible. There's a real hunger for stuff like this. You guys are all here because you're the kind of people that would love to go to this. This would be a very low-cost way for somebody like Hopkins to engage more fully with civic society here. A new repertory theater. There's like 4 or 5 movie theaters in Baltimore. There's room for way more. At Ignite Baltimore, the director, Matt Porterfield, explained this idea of like reviving something like the Orpheum Theater, where on Saturday morning you could take your kids there to see old-fashioned cartoons. Saturday night you could go back for a date night. You could see an art house film. You could see some kind of indie thing that was made in Baltimore. You could see a movie from 50 years ago. This could be really successful. I really have a vision in my mind of how this could make a lot of money and be good for culture. All right. We do have some blogs in Baltimore that cover technology. Startup Baltimore has a narrow focus, and Balt Tech, which is the Baltimore Sun blog, has a very broad focus. I want to see something like Technically Philly, which is a blog that covers everything to do with technology in Philadelphia. So look, for this podcast, I want there to be 1 week they interview an iPhone developer, independent person that's able to support themselves just through selling things in the App Store. The next week, I want them to interview the CIO of Legg Mason. And the next week, I want them to interview Tom Loveland, et cetera, et cetera. I would love to host this. I just need somebody else to kind of help me get it running. I need an executive producer. Okay. Or somebody else host it, and then I won't have to. Another idea from Philly and also from DC's Digital Capital Week, we need to have Baltimore Technology Week. If we have a beer week and a restaurant week, we can certainly have a technology week. And also we could have an art week. We have so many cool events like TEDxBaltimore. Why don't we have 1 week where we cram them all into 1 week, and we run ourselves ragged going to so many cool things. And the reason why you do that is because it puts a big spotlight on the community, all the positive things that innovators in Baltimore here are doing. It'd be easy to get media coverage, et cetera, et cetera. And every new media article that comes out brings someone else out of the woodwork into our fold. Okay, Amateur Porn Festival. Stick with me. We're going somewhere with this. This is something happening in Seattle, the Hump Festival in Seattle. I read about it in Dan Savage's blog. Now, I've never seen a pornographic film. I know none of you guys ever have. But I'm told, I read, that it's a very big industry ripe for disruption. I've heard that it offers a lot of the same content over and over again without any, there's not a lot of innovation going on is what I gather. So, the reason why this is worth doing is not because you're going to get some kind of erotic charge by going to this festival. Maybe you will. But I think it would be super fun to see what people come up with in each category. And I don't think there's any other city on the East Coast where this would get as much oxygen to grow and breathe as it would here in Baltimore. Let's play up our quirkiness and our awesomeness. This would be a signpost in the ground saying that Baltimore is a place where unbridled creativity really could take root, and no one's going to stop you. We're going to make our own porn films. Awesome. Okay. Artimatic is an event that happens in D.C. where they take over a building that's not occupied, but it's inhabitable. Maybe it's not quite finished or held up with red tape or whatever. And they turn it into an art gallery performance space for 2 weeks. Think of the Current Gallery downtown. Imagine if you blew up the Current Gallery into a whole building and you made it last only 2 weeks. This would be a major happening for the art scene and for culture in Baltimore. Okay, we need to have an awards night. You think about the people, think about Mike Brenner, who put up the Startup Weekend. Think about Mel Brennan. Think about Nate Mook. Think about Heather Sarkisian, Scott Burkholder, a million other people. I'm sorry, those are just the ones off the top of my head. These people are not doing all the volunteer things that they do for extrinsic rewards, but we need to thank them anyway. Something that I learned when I was in the Navy was that just a little bit of official recognition. Like you literally just give someone a plaque that says, you donated the awesomest website for a project over the past year. That goes so far to refueling someone's tank so that they'll be that much more willing to volunteer their gifts next time. And it needs to be something that's for us and by us, not from some top-down institution. Okay, this is an unformed idea, but I was reviewing applications for a startup accelerator where people are seeking $15,000 of angel investment. And a lot of the ideas, some of the ideas, were good business ideas that I thought would make money, but I didn't think that an investor would want to invest in them because they're not going to generate 10x returns. But those businesses should get started. And what it made me think is that since banks have conglomerated and turned themselves into socially useless organizations, making CDOs, constructing Dutch sandwiches, et cetera, now there's actually a niche. There's a room for a new to revive the idea of a loan officer, somebody that comes to things like this event and knows people and knows who's a good credit risk to help get these small-scale businesses going, because that, of course, is The majority of business activity is small business activity. All right. Flashpoint, this is another idea I love from DC. You get a bunch of different arts organizations, small-scale arts organizations that on their own can't afford their own space. You have them pool their resources. Each pays a reasonable amount of rent per month, and each of them gets a guaranteed amount of use of that black box space of that gallery. The place in D.C., I watched it help Washington Improv Theater go from being a small, struggling organization to one that's a real professional theater that employs people, and has people on salary, and is doing groundbreaking work in improv theater. We have a lot of groups in Baltimore that are like right in the middle. They're dance collectives and theater troupes that aren't community theater exactly, but they're not center stage either. And this is how you get them to that next level. Okay, Software Institute of Baltimore. This is one of my favorite ideas. I saved it for last. Something really exciting is happening in the world of software. In the past 10 years, programming tools have become so powerful, so abstract, that when you write code now, especially if you're writing something like a web application or an iPhone app or an Android app, something like that, what you're doing includes computer science and it includes software engineering, but it also has an aspect that, to me, the programmer feels like a fine art. It feels like some kind of performance. And there's a growing group of people who have that feeling. They call themselves software craftsmen. They have a manifesto. They have a conference. But they don't really have an academic institution. So here's the idea. Let's just make Baltimore the world center of excellence for this idea by establishing an academic center of excellence. In fact, if anyone with a, oh, right. So that's the kind of stuff that it would teach as an example that doesn't really fall under the rubric of computer science. These designy things, these things that have to do with making a finished product, not just a really efficient algorithm or a low-level device driver. So in fact, why don't we just have the something or other school of software at MICA, where they teach software creativity, where there's programmers who want to be better designers, and there's designers who want to be better programmers, and there's people who want to do both. This is laid out in great detail, the whole curriculum at that link below, which I also posted on my blog. You should definitely check it out. So if anyone here has a MICA connection, like, let's put a bug in their ear, because this would crush. It would make so much money for the school. It would be such a good thing for the city. I can't believe we don't already have this. All right. So I just laid out for you some of the things that some of those are very small. Would cost you almost no money to get Secret Science Society going. Would cost a lot more money to create a new school at MICA. But all those things cumulatively taken together cost a lot less than the big ICC scale projects that we're used to. I mean, this is the status quo right now. None of these things, while being, I'm sure they're worthy in their own right, and I know a lot of good people have worked on them, none of these things is really going to transform the economy. This is just more of the same. I firmly believe that if you do stuff like what I outlined, maybe not those things, but stuff like that, you can cause a tremendous effect. Some of those programs are going to end up blowing up and creating a huge dividend. Other ones may fizzle out, but the cumulative effect is going to be very great. I left out a lot of my ideas. I'd love to talk with you more, answer your questions, find out what your ideas are. If you want to get in touch with me, that's my Twitter address. That's my email. Thank you very much.
Tech rock stars. Tech rock stars. I never think of these guys as rock stars, but in their world, I'm sure that they are rock stars.